passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in! Touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
Swinging it right! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman, I'm Jarid Watson, and we are going to talk about the Indians' injury streak continuing. Corey Kluber is the latest on that list, joining the injured list. I almost said it the old way. It's the IL, not the DL. The Indians also setting new lows on offense. Congratulations, Tribe. But with all that said, the Indians are trending, are doing well, actually, with a 4 games above 500, treading, rather, 4 games above 500. Odell Beckham's article in GQ, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Baker with a loving note to his mother. I didn't watch that video yet. I will, though, probably after we record this. And now, almost 2 years later, who really won the trade with the Celtics and Cavs with Kyrie going to Boston? Let me add, are Cavs fans in a better position than Lakers fans? Is it better to be a Cavs fan right now than a Laker fan? We'll jump into that.
I think that's all debatable.
Yeah.
All debatable.
We've got plenty of debate coming up.
Cleveland Indians.
Let's lead off with the Tribe, the Minnesummer. As you know, as you can probably tell, Jared and I have been on a hard run with work and stuff, and it feels like the Indians have too. The Indians win 2,
if they feel like I feel right now, it makes sense that they're playing the way they are.
Yeah, we're doing good, but they're tired. Like, the Indians win 2, they lose 2. They look great. They get walk off home runs. Carlos Santana, big home run Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then they get blown out in back-to-back games. One of them being Bauer start. Okay, so the Indians are kind of all over the place, back and forth, but, we're going to start... It is. It's been a frustrating year.
I know, and this reminds
help.
me of like 3 or 4 years ago. They had a season that was kind of like this. I'm just hoping that there's less of a back and forth at some point.
The thing that isn't helping is the Twins have the best record in the AL, and because of that, you're seeing this gap in games where it's 3.5 tonight, and tonight's a Thursday night on May 9th. So that kind of puts it in there. But again, for people listening to this podcast, don't do that stuff until Memorial Day weekend. We should lead off is where we were last time. The Indians were beating the Marlins. And then the very next night, a big change again happened. And sadly, it's not a change with the subject or the theme. Injuries have been a big part since really day one. Mm-hmm. And it continued with Corey Kluber, who got drilled in the arm. He's going to be out for a while. I think from everything you're reading, I think him coming back would be a huge win at this point. What I really took out of it, though, Jared, which I found outside the injury theme hitting the bug again, it's amazing how things have changed in a year. When Kluber got hurt, I felt bad for Corey. Corey has not had a good start to 2019.
No,
he didn't have a good end to 2018.
Lost a little velocity. He's gotten tagged a few times. Kluber's at that point in his career where he's going to have to make some changes, and I think he knows that.
Yeah, and it happens to everybody, whether it's Mike Mussina, David Cone, CC Sabathia. We saw it with CC. He was kind of losing it a little bit as he was getting traded to Milwaukee, and then he refigured himself again in New York. And so yes. And
to mention, if you want to bring up some of the names of guys who didn't go through those changes, they were probably a part of that group that had needles going in their butts.
Well, right.
So let's be real about that. There's some pitchers out there that you can argue, oh, well, this person didn't go through that change. This person didn't lose it. Yeah, I know why. And we all do.
Well, right. I mean, the biggest example, and he actually did dip, was Clemens. Clemens' career dipped, and then it spiked up.
Right.
Where he was unbelievable for the Blue Jays that 1 year, and because he was getting juiced, as we all found out later. But anyways, back to Kluber. What's interesting now, though, we all feel bad for Kluber. It's a shocking injury. It looked bad. It felt bad. Jared, what's interesting, though, is the Indians losing Kluber hurts the rotation, but it's not devastating because Kluber really isn't he just isn't pitching well this year.
No, and I honestly, so here's where so we talked before the season started about the trade rumors. Do we trade Kluber? Do we trade Bauer? I said, if you're getting rid of either one of them, you got to get rid of Bauer. That was my look. I'm looking, hindsight's 2020. Thank God they didn't get rid of either of them. Andy, we knew that, especially on the rest of the defense and on the offensive side of the ball, there is no room for injury and no room for error. Bottom line, period. That rotation, especially with guys that have been able to come in and step up, I didn't really think it. I don't think there's much of a plus or minus difference in games won or lost with Corey Kluber out of this rotation right now. Would you agree with that?
I would, in the sense of power pitchers. I will say, though, the longer he's out, the more, and that's why you're hearing rumors of Keuchel. I read that the other day, James Shields, because in the long run, there are pitchers short right now because Plutko's been hurt, and let's just be fair, and I love Cody Anderson. Cody Anderson just looks like he's still a few weeks away, or maybe months, maybe next year away from being back to where he was, and that's not surprising with Tommy John surgery. I can't stress that enough. So it isn't like I'm shocked about how it's going, but Cody Anderson looked so poor on Sunday against Seattle that I just don't know. That's why you're probably hearing these rumors. So I agree with what you're saying in theory. However, the Indians now are an arm short. And so it goes back to what we were alluding to on the last podcast with Jeffrey Rodriguez. You know, I complained, you complained, and it was fair about Yan Gomes. Well, I will turn around now and do what you just did and say the same thing. Now that trade makes a lot more sense because Jeffrey Rodriguez is a lifesaver because he can be your fourth starter. And he's pitching really well. And you know what? He's going to be pitching a lot now.
Well, he's going to be pitching a lot, and we can also say that Clevenger's on track to come back in time to make impact. Yeah,
June,
prior
July.
to the break.
Yeah, June, July. I think it's on track, and he looks good.
He's throwing 90 feet. He looks comfortable.
Yeah,
we'll let that process play out. Anytime, again, we're talking about soft tissue injuries. It's, whatever he's pulled or strained, you just hope it doesn't come back or nag in the future. I think that's my only worry. But I think they'll take it slow. They're not going to force him back into the rotation. Damn well that Tito's not going to flinch to try to get him out there. They're going to make do with what they have.
They have to now.
But they've been in that mindset, I think, since day one. We know we don't have room for error, but we know damn well injuries are unavoidable. You just wonder. You just hope they happen at a point in the season that they can recover from them and that they can survive. It's nerve-wracking when you've got a team like the Twins that you knew they would be nipping at your heels, and right now you're trying to nip at their heels, but it's still early enough that we're good. We're good.
Well, that's the thing.
Good.
That's the thing I wanted to bring up. Like, the Twins got off to such a hot start. Their best record in the AL. But with that said, the Indians are only 3.5 out.
Yeah.
And again, that's why
the Twins will come down. That's not sustainable.
Oh, there's no question. And that's why I mentioned in the write-up, the Indians are treading water. Now, they have an interesting road trip coming up. They have 3 in Oakland, which has always, for some reason, recently been dicey. My middle son Cameron mentioned a car. We never win in Oakland. I'm like, I know. It's always a dicey trip anymore. And then they have 2, again, against the White Sox, who have been really a pain in the side this year for whatever reason or another.
Yeah, that's been a real annoying series.
Yeah, they have
real
not been
annoying.
Those games have not gone the Indians' way this year so far. So they need to win a couple of those games. I think it's an interesting little road trip. It's only 5 games. And then, Jared, they're at home. I'm looking at the schedule. 4 against Baltimore. Those are all winnable games. Yep. Oakland again. And then they get to the first time, I think, a real tester. 4 against Tampa Bay, 3 in Boston, 3 back, and then a 4-game set in Chicago against the White Sox. So they have it's interesting. They have a little tester, then they come down, Baltimore and Oakland home, and then, nonstop baseball, Rays, Red Sox, White Sox. It's a lot, and the Red Sox and White Sox all on the road. And that's going to be a test.
Yeah, I'd be happy with winning 2 of those series and, taking 2 from Boston, 2 from at least 2, take 2 from Chicago. And I don't know. Well, I don't know what I'm expecting out of it. I don't, Andy, the way that things have been going with them, they're going to split, They're going to split.
Well, again, they lose 2, win 2, lose 2, win 2. And they win in exciting fashion, then they get blown out. Now, part of the reason why this year has been this way is because of the offense.
Right.
And Mandy Bell, who we need to get back on the show soon again,
Mandy.
wrote a wonderful article really pointing out how bad is it, as she put it in her title, worst offense to start since 1910, 1910, over now 100 years ago. That's how, to read the stat off, the Indians are hitting a combined 212, which is the worst team average through a 34-game span since 1910.
Back when they were swinging broomsticks.
Yes, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth running bases. Cy Young was pitching for the Indians. That's just how long ago it was. So the Indians, it's been a really long run of bad hitting this year. I listed some things down to what we think, and you and I have been talking offline. So let's really get to some things. I think to start on the positives, Luplo's had a very good run this week. He had a great game on Thursday. That's today. He had 2 home runs in the White Sox cut short game. His average is up to 273, so that should be noted.
You can't deny an average like that with that kid. I got to tell you, I'm surprised. Never thought it would happen. And some of these numbers, they're actually the opposite of what I expected. Naquin's exactly where I was hoping he'd be, to be honest.
Yeah, Naquin's 271. And as I've told you, I think Carlos Gonzalez is an everyday outfielder still. He's a veteran outfielder. He's not going to hit above 260, but he still has power. And people need to remember, he's technically still in spring training right now. So I think Carlos Gonzalez really is on his way. I think he'll be okay. The negatives, though, are, as Mandy's article pointed out, is the reason why they're standing out. It's because they're glaring, and it's true. The one thing about the Indians, though, and I agree with you about Naquin, and I do like how Luplo's playing better. All that to be said, no one scares you from the outfield. And DH. No one. None of these names scare you. I know Bowers, his average is a tick up, and he's hitting for, a speck of power, 3 home runs, but that's your DH. That doesn't cut it. The Indians have to get something going here with the DHs in the outfield. And I don't want to pick on a guy who had a severe health scare, because we all like Leonis Martin. Leonis Martin's been a big disappointment.
No, he's
batting 211, and his glove, and this is where I get very itchy with Martin. Martin has really not played a good glove. He's had balls go past him. He's had mistakes where he's overthrowing cutoff men multiple times in multiple games. I've seen both balls getting by him taking weird routes to balls. Jared, if Leonis isn't hitting, you have to play the outfield. And if you're not playing good glove, Jared, why is Leonis Martin in the lineup?
Well, when by the way, is Zimmer going to be good?
Oscar Mercado.
And when
where
is Oscar?
Are you?
And that was
where
number 2.
Is he?
What is the deal with waiting? What are they waiting on? Are they waiting?
Know.
Andy,
by the way,
maybe they know better than us. Maybe they think that they need to give Martin more time. Maybe they think they need to wait this out a little bit longer.
There was a great article that came out today on ESPN.com, and I forget the writer's name, but he mentioned it, and he called it out. He said, hey, they are past arbitration period. So meaning you're getting an extra year of arbitration. That period is now passed.
Right.
So he should be up. And like he mentioned, he goes, I don't understand what they're waiting for. And again, we mentioned, yes, Naquin's hitting somewhat better. Yes, Luplo. If we're all being fair, though, in love of war here in the outfield, Lupo and Naquin splitting time wouldn't be a bad thing. Or you put Mercado in there and let all those guys kind of split time, along with Carlos Gonzalez and maybe Leonis Martin. Okay, now you kind of maybe have an outfield.
Platoon the entire outfield.
Well, by the way, you're there, so you might as well admit it.
Absolutely.
But so, like, that's where you feel a little bit better about the outfield. And I don't know how you fix DH. You probably can't. And that leads to the eyesore for you and I since day one, catcher. Again, catcher this year, I know Prez has had a couple hits here and there in big spots. I mean, when I say a couple, I really mean 2. Pilecki's had a couple moments here and there. But really...
Listen, we needed Pilecki to pitch, not catch.
Yeah, and by the way, he's done a nice job. And that's not good to say that.
I know.
But...
how many was he had? 3 innings already? Three appearances already this year?
Yeah.
And this is with a team that we love the pitching. Think about that.
I know. Well, the other thing, too, and I should have put this in a rundown, the Indians this year, the only thing that I am really worried about, I'm not worried about the Twins yet. I'm not worried about some of these other things yet. I even think the hitting will come back. I think Zimmer and Mercado playing it'll help.
Yeah.
But I am worried about these non-competitive Indians games. And there's been way too many this year.
Early.
Oh, games on Sunday when Jay Bruce hit that grand slam, I watched the entire game. Game was over in the top of the first. Game was over. Game was over. On Monday night when Bauer gave up those runs in the fifth, and that's a game Trevor Bauer's pitching, game was over. Game was over. And there's been multiple instances where we've talked on this show where we said, boy, it just doesn't feel like the Indians have a breath or a chance to get back in these games. Yeah. That does worry me, and that will wear down this team if it continues. You can't keep having games where in the fifth or earlier, the game is over, and the Indians have had way too many of those this year.
I know we've been a lot kinder to him as of late, but I will say this. You talk about Bauer getting tagged.
Yep.
Look, let's talk briefly about this bullying online situation. To me, that's a distraction. Trev, first of all, those people, are they even real people? Who are they? Are they just trolls? I mean, to me, they look like made-up, phony accounts.
Yep.
At least, right? I mean, so what are we doing? Like, what? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I don't give a shit. He threatened my whole family to burn and die and run. Delete it. What are we talking about?
Well,
dumb people exist. I'm a grown ass adult on social media, right? If I was a public figure, which I guess I'm an unknown public figure in a sense, I don't care. It's not real. That's not real. Like, what are we talking about? First of all. Second of all, if you're going to be all over the place on social media, then talking the smack you do and having the fun with the bobbleheads and the Bergman and blah, 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 you can't wet the bed like you did the other day.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. After the loss on Sunday, Trevor Bauer's the ace. You need him to lift the team, and he deflated it more. Yeah. Sundays before, and by the way, everybody's allowed to have a bad performance. And yes, I know Trevor will bounce back, and he'll be fine.
Sure.
And he'll be very good this year. But that was a bad start. Period. End of sentence.
There's just some emotional immaturity issues that I think he still struggles with. And when he has outings like this, it makes them glaring even more. They are just brighter and shinier and more annoying.
Again, I think he will. I think he'll be fine. And I really believe he'll figure some things out here as he starts to come up. But that was the first, I would call it an F. It was an F performance. You've got to as an ace. And he's the ace. He's the ace. You've got to be able to lift your team on those kind of starts after what happened the night before. Cody Anderson didn't even get through the first inning. You have to lift the team, and he didn't lift it. We'll see. That's going to come around again for him again soon. I believe in Bauer. I know Bauer will figure it out, but that was a definite rough start. I do want to touch on J-Ram real quick because J-Ram is doing one of the most slowest builds I've ever seen of an improvement I've ever seen in sports.
But he is.
He is.
It's like a slow clap.
It really is.
Like, when's it going to come to fruition?
It's like
all of it
very slow. He's got a hitting streak, but it's only one. But I gotta say, he is improving. I think people, and he's been rightly so, he struggled to begin the year, really struggled. I am seeing little progress, but little progress is still only just above 200. He had a huge home run Wednesday night. I hope that really carries him. And you can tell the team.
I think it will.
And by the way, it carried into today's game, today being Thursday. They won in a rain-shortened game, but the Indians were really playing with a lot of confidence today. You could see it.
Look, so damn well we've talked about this, Andy. The guy has disappeared from the media, and he was a guy that was always out there. Yep. I know that he responded after the walk-off win. I know he responded with, that he's confident, that he's going to keep battling and all this and that. That's great. But I'll tell you right now, hit that home run and for that game, that moment for him, that I think that's huge for him, confidence-wise and emotionally.
Yeah,
I think he needed that desperately.
Yeah, Francona was smiling from year to year, everybody was so happy for. And again, Jose's so likable.
Yes.
And by the way, Jose's doing a lot in these local communities. He did a lot in Miami.
Yes.
Talking to young Latin boys and girls who don't speak the language yet, helping them out, helping them give confidence. He is a good person. He is a good human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to see that. Hopefully that lifts a little bit up. Even Kipnis lately has been hitting better. Lindor hitting better. Again, small progresses. Carlos Santana has finally came back down to earth. He's batting under 300 again. Still in the 290s, but he's finally come back down a little bit. He's still having a great start to the year. Yeah. So, Jared, there all to be said. It's an interesting look ahead because, like I said, at Oakland, 2 against Chicago, and then you get a quick reprieval, and then you get 4 against the Birds and Baltimore, and then you get the A's again. And then you go on a long, hard streak of Rays in Boston, in Chicago with the White Sox. So the Indians have a chance here to see where we're at. I think they get a little tough, again, a little bit of a tough road trip, but not long. A good reprieval to play the Orioles at home and the A's at home, and then you're really going to get tested for 11 straight games. I think it's 11 straight games, actually. So the Indians, it's an interesting tester. And again, I wanted to remind us about the Twins. They are off to a really hot start. And Jared said, and I was going to say the same thing, they will come back down. Yeah. There will be moments where this will collapse a little bit. And
speaking to the going forward and having these tough series coming up, Andy, we have seen it already. This pitching staff against the best hitting teams in the league,
they'll be fine.
They will be fine if we can find a way to hit the effing ball. We can take advantage of our good pitching, and I really, really hope that we don't flounder around and come back off of that road, those road games. I'd like to be a little bit better than 500, please. Can we, please? I get that it's tough, but Andy, you can't. This is one of the best pitching staffs, the best rotations in the league, even without Kluber.
And by the way, a fantastic closer, a really good team of setups with Simber, and with Whitgren. Like, you have the straight and narrow here, meaning you have pitchers that will get through 6 and longer, and you have a great closer in Brad Hand, who's one of the top closers in the game.
Yes. So the Indians, these small improvements, there's a lot of fatalist fans out there right now, still.
And that's fair. And again, the stats are glaring. There are some things that are eyesores. I think the things to watch are this little road trip. I will be watching carefully about the Oscar Mercado thing. He's got to be coming up soon. I think the other thing is, too, as we mentioned, little improvements with J-Ram. Can Luplow and Naquin keep continuing like this? Will Bowers maybe get a bigger, stronger start?
Yep.
And then to the other Bauer on our team, when the ball gets in his hand, which I know he will, pitching like we know he can and leading this team, because he is now the ace. With Kluber now off in the IL, probably until the earliest late summer, early fall, Jared, he's our ace. Trevor Bauer is our ace right now. He is our guy.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. That does, Andy, when we talk about it in those terms, that makes me a little nervous because Andy, he's great with individual players. He's great with being buddies with guys on that team. No, I do not think he's, a cancer in the dugout or any of that stuff. But I wouldn't call him a leader, and I don't know that calling him an ace. I don't know if those go together in your mind. But I don't know. Listen, I want them to all start, continue to have a good time. But as for him, like taking a legit leading role, I just don't. I don't know where that gets you. No, I mean, Andy, leaders, like when people, leaders are
Jared,
leaders, like he's
Jared,
not a leader. He's a great, like he's good at what he does.
Jared.
And he's got his way.
The ace of the Indians is Trevor Bauer.
Okay. All right.
I'm not saying you have to love it. Right. I'm just telling you. It's
been one of the things that's bothered me about this team since jump. There's no legitimate leading voice. And
I think there
Trevor
is.
Bauer, okay, leading voice, yeah. Trevor Bauer, sure, he's a leading voice, but I don't want that. I don't need him coming after a loss and crying about phony Twitter accounts telling him to kill himself. Like and that's not condoning it. Like do not equate what I'm saying to something like that. Not that you are, Andy. Anyone listening. I'm not saying that. I'm saying stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
I think Trevor is going to take a big jump forward.
Well, you got more confidence than I do.
I really do. I really think.
I don't. I don't think he's got the maturity to do it yet. I just don't. I think he's got too many. I think he's got too many issues regarding, and I get it. I know where it's coming from. We know how he was treated growing up. We know how he was treated in college. We know the chip on his shoulder he has. I don't think any of that plays in his favor with his own self-awareness enough to be able to call himself a true leader. He doesn't fit that mold. He just doesn't.
Ready for this? And here's where I agree with Jared. He does need to prove it. And that's why I bring it up the way I keep bringing it up.
All right.
Because Trevor now has the mantle. The torch has been passed. Can he lead the Indians to a pennant? We'll find out. Because he's going to have...
Can Kyrie lead the Celtics?
Oh, that's for the next segment. Let's talk about...
wait a minute. That's my point. I'm going to say
on
both fronts.
Let's see. I do believe in Trevor Bauer. Let's talk about Odell Beckham.
Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I want to. Oh, I want to. I want to talk about him. I want to talk about him.
Okay, good.
I'm sick of the shit.
Okay, wow, Jared fired up on a Thursday. I love
the
it.
Man alone.
All right, so he had an interesting, very cool article on GQ.
Yes, a very cool article with good quotes that do not need to be hyperbolized and taken out of frickin' context. And the guy does not need people coming after him for bullshit. All he's doing is being a helpful motivator for a team that he wants to make good. Period.
Were people that upset? Maybe I was just under
Yes,
a fog.
Andy, I listen. I love, all right, God bless. I love the shows that I listen to out of Cleveland media, right? I love Cleveland sports talk. I do.
I've not been as fortunate lately.
I mean, it was ad nauseum. I am tired of this. Well, should he be saying that, like, he's not even being quoted correctly in some instances? And I'm not saying about some of the shows I listen to. I'm not saying that. Ken Carmen, I'm not talking about you.
I was gonna say I have not heard any of this, but
but there is this level of taking the words that he says and then putting a new level of meaning on it. Well, he says they're going to be the next Patriots. It's not what he said. It's not what he said. Stop it.
There's
nothing wrong with hoping that you play for a team that is the next Patriots. There's nothing wrong with that. Isn't that the whole point of the frickin' game? Wouldn't you love to be the next Patriots? Wouldn't you love to make a team the next Patriots? What is the problem? What is the problem with that?
I agree. I love Jared Watson.
I waited a week to say all this shit.
I love Jared Watson's passion. All right, here's what Odell Beckham did say in the article.
Thank you.
I plan on being there for the next 5 years and trying to bring as many champions there as possible.
Cool.
Turning the Browns into the new Patriots. Yeah, Beckham has also high praise for Mayfield. I would say he's next, but I feel like he's now. He's Brett Favre. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Now, I'm going to piggyback off what Jared just said about the Patriots comment. The whole thing is, and part of this is just, and this is not just unique to Cleveland. It's unique to any city. The Patriots are a buzzword because we all want to be the Patriots. Whether you're the Giants, who beat them twice in the Super Bowl, whether you're the Jets, I shouldn't say the Giants, it's probably the Jets. The Jets, whether even this, I know the Steelers fans don't want to hear this, even the Steelers. The Patriots have been so good for so long that they are, and by the way, it is what it is. A guy who used to coach the old Browns, the last coach, is leading this. And it's very frustrating. And it doesn't mean anything bad against Bill Belichick. It's just frustrating.
No, it's another reminder of what could have been. 95.
Well, that's all about
Andy, don't make me put Believe Land on.
Okay, I won't review. That director is a wonderful man. He's very handsome and very funny. But here's what I will go on to say. By the way, maybe we'll do free autograph giveaways. So I heard the director's a really fine guy.
I told you we need to do that. How many copies you got left? People would love to have that. I want one, damn it. I'm mad I don't have one in my mailbox.
Only a few cases. But anyways,
I want a few cases.
It's like Anyways,
Don't let the city of Cleveland know that. They'll be hunting you down for it.
Oh, yeah, sure. They're good for coasters, Frisbees. So anyways, going back to this whole thing with what Beckham said, I agree with Jared. I really don't have anything else to say. He's got so much passion I don't want to take away from it.
I will say this. You want me to give a knock? I'll give a knock real quick. I know I'm interrupting you again.
That's fine.
I've said this before. I don't like I don't like being the next whatever, the next Netflix, the Uber of this, the next Apple, the next Amazon. Like I'm not into that. Mm-hmm. So that annoyed me. Does that make you isn't it weird? I said this on Twitter. Isn't it weird to have this be our problem right now, Browns fans? Well, isn't it weird to have our problem be that we have so much effing talent that we have to be upset that they haven't even played a game yet? I get it. He's not saying that they are something. He's saying they want to be something. Big difference.
I will say this. I thought nothing was wrong to be said. This article was great. You do want to be the Patriots because that's the team that's been winning for the last 15. Let's do the math. Actually, almost 20 years. Okay, they've been that good for that long because it started in 2001, so it's almost 20 years now. 18.
Yeah.
So that's a great comparison. Now,
and there's a great mashup video of Baker Mayfield and Brett Favre, by the way, floating around out there, in case you were wondering.
Yes. So, I forget where I was going to go with my next point. But anyways, the whole point being is the Browns, all these articles find Beckham. Yeah. Fans are just making news out of news because there's nothing news. I will say this again. Nothing was wrong with the article and nothing was wrong with the quote by Beckham. He really said cool quotes, in my opinion. I agree with Jared. The Browns, though, really do need to exit stage left.
I knew you were going to say that. It's not going to happen, Andy.
Well, it is.
Andy, this team has too many personalities, too much going on, and too much hype around them. Nobody's going to shut the hell up for longer than 5 minutes. It's not.
But here's the thing, Jared. Even in my circles, and I pay attention just as much as anybody does in Cleveland, I thought this Beckham thing was more small blippy this time compared to the other things. And what I mean by that is like it was all social media driven. It didn't really make mainstream like ESPN.com or something like that. The only thing it did was Beckham's quotes in the story, which it should. It was a great story. Other than that, really this hubbub about the Browns really didn't make it. But here's what I am starting to see, which is going to happen. And it's not the word that people want to hear, but it's target. The Browns definitely have a target on them. And you're starting to see articles already. Well, the Browns better calm down. Stephen A. Smith, a lot of pressure on the Browns. And you're starting to hear these things, Jared, and I think that is coming more and more and more. It won't bother me.
Cool.
I'm not bothered by it, but I'll just warn those things are coming, and I'm already starting to see them, and it's only May.
Andy.
Again.
LeBron James.
Yes.
LeBron James. Was that a thing that was a problem? LeBron James. It's cool.
Here's the cool thing about the NBA compared to the NFL, and it's obviously because of the metrics of playing so many games. The NBA was great because the NBA was almost full year round. The NFL is only in the fall into early winter.
Yeah, I will say that maybe the anticipation, the build up, that nothing has happened yet. I mean, that stuff does play against itself. I got that.
The Browns really need to exit stage left.
Or they need to come out and win 12 games like I think they're going to. I mean, that's the only way to shut everyone the hell up.
Yes. The other thing. God,
I'll wear a fucking kilt, Andy.
Man, I am so upset.
Drop into the Met
I was
Gala
so in the weeds of work
kilt.
this week that I did not pay attention more to what Jared was listening to.
Actually, I think I got into it with Anthony Lima briefly over that.
Nice,
because he said, "Don't you think Freddie wants Odell to stop talking?" I'm like, "No, why? What is he saying? What does it matter?"
Well, I was gonna now. I don't know if that was said.
Yes, Odell
Beckham gave a very good complimentary comment.
That's what I thought.
This is pretty neutral, and I really mean that. Meaning,
I think that's why I'm fired up because I wasn't hearing the take being taken neutrally. Like, is that even said right?
That's what you're supposed
neutrally?
to say. Well, that's my point. That's what you're supposed to say. You're having a big year ahead of you, so I don't know. For what it's worth, Beckham was at the Met Gala, Baker Mayfield at the Derby. if you want something to turn heads, I thought Baker Mayfield's, which I know ESPN's going to do more of these. Mayfield did a great loving tribute for Mother's Day to his mom.
Good for him.
Very, very cool thing. And what they ended up doing, I don't want to ruin it. People should watch it. It's very cool what they did. I thought ESPN had a great idea. Kudos to the producer who came up with that. This is a very cool idea what they did. So I'll leave that there. Baker's at the Derby. That trended. He was really the star of the show, by the way. And I will say, to my last comment that I kind of built off of, so I'll say it again. Mayfield, Beckham at the Met. The Browns are very cool right now, and they're very chic. That does put a target on their back, but man, is it fun right now.
Let me ask you this last question.
Sure.
And it wraps back around again because that original question was brought up again. I heard it talked about not but a day ago or this morning, or I don't remember when. My buddy that I was talking to today on my drive to school asked me this question, and I thought it was great because he's a Packers fan, but he loves what's going on in Cleveland right now. And he loves Baker Mayfield and what this guy is. And he goes, first of all, Baker is a guy that no one on that team, you can't hate. He's too good at what he does. He's a leader. He's a legit leader. You just see it. He emanates it. Is that the right word? I don't know at this point in the evening. Anyway. And he goes, don't you think,
are good.
I think I was
M&Ms.
complaining. Don't you think that if Baker wanted Odell at the non-mandatory, see, I told you I'm losing my mind.
These OTAs.
The OTAs, thank you. Don't you think if Baker wanted him there, he would be there?
Folks.
Yes, he would.
I'm not even going to go there.
That's all.
Okay, now you're going to get me fired about one thing. I don't fucking care about OTAs. I don't fucking care. I don't care.
No,
Jared, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. Jared, I don't want to talk about it. Jared, I don't want to talk about it. I don't care. I don't care who's there. I don't care who's not there. I don't care.
Joe Thomas says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I've said that before.
Yeah,
but again,
doesn't matter.
These things keep coming up, and it needs to go away.
Well, those are people who need, again, Browns need to exit stage left and out of their brain.
And
These
again,
OTAs.
if Baker wanted Odell there, I think Odell would have been there. And Baker didn't have a problem with it. So,
folks, here's the thing.
Shut the hell up.
Folks, here's the thing. Here's how I'm going to end it again. I'm going to say this time and time again.
Yeah.
For all those goddamn fucking years when the Browns sucked.
See? There you
and they
go.
were
Now
terrible,
I got you
and they were
rolling.
awful. We had all I'm not saying these are bad people. They just all stunk. Muhammad Massaquas, the McCoys, all these, the Kesslers, all these people coming
Guys,
through.
that we be on the practice squad on other teams.
Who get cut. It didn't matter, okay? We would hyper-focus on these things because we're looking for any inkling of positivity or something to hang on to. You know why it doesn't matter right now? Because it's all about starting and training camp going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No one cares. You know what? I don't want to hear either about, hey, vacation pics in June. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Let people do what they want to do and talk to me in late July once it starts. Tired of this. Get in the Indians. Get in these other things. Go out and walk.
Well, the Indians aren't doing any favors
do
right
some
now
yoga.
offensively for us to get into.
I'm just tired of this. OTA bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's boring, and no one cares.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to get excited as they're running routes while they're drinking Gatorade?
Yeah. Where's Odell?
Who cares?
Where's Odell?
I don't care.
Oh, he's at the Met Gala wearing a kilt. First of all, that outfit looked pretty badass. I'm not going to lie. Thought it was cool.
Hey,
Ripped off
look,
sleeves. Badass.
For people who don't know, the Met Gala is a huge thing. And it's only even a bigger deal when someone like Odell Beckham not only gets to go, he's being dressed for it.
Yeah.
That's how big a deal Odell Beckham is. And to get dressed by a famous designer to walk out and sit in part of the crowd, that's how big time all that is. So it's very cool. Baker Mayfield doing what he did on Saturday at the Derby is a huge deal. The Browns right now are very cool. They're very chic, and I love it.
Back your guys. Back them.
Just because they're not drinking Miller Lite or Bud Light and they have flip-flops on and they're wearing hats and they're playing horseshoes or whatever or cornhole doesn't mean they're not. I love these guys, and I love how they're chic. I love how they're cool.
They're blue-collar chic,
it.
Andy. They're blue-collar chic. I'm making that up right now. I'm coining it right now. They're blue-collar chic.
Well, we'll get into that in a different podcast, but they're chic.
You're not buying into it.
No.
That's fine.
But
I don't give a shit. Others will.
But I think
chic.
I think it's cool the Browns are chic, and I'll leave it at that.
Baker's beard is like down to his stomach right now. Blue-collar chic. Whatever.
It is blue-collar chic. All right, let's move. Let's go to the NBA. All right. Before we get to the other stuff.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do.
I'm sorry. Dude, yes. I can't deal with it. Let's talk Rockets Warriors, no?
I will. No, I love talking about that. We're going to get that at the end. Don't worry. And there's a big development going on in your Buckeyes and football. So we're going to get all that stuff. Hold on. But let's get to one thing positive. Kevin Love's been on a big tour this past week about mental health. He's really brought a lot of awareness to it. I saw him on Today's Show. He also did a GQ article. It's great that he's doing this stuff because it brings up a topic that I'm very aware of and being close to. And I know everybody has, people in their lives. I'm not saying I'm dealing with it or I know people. We all know people who deal with this stuff. So I think it's great that Kevin Love brings this to attention. I think mental health is a great subject. That needs to be talked about in a good way.
Yeah, it's what I go to school for. So
yeah.
I obviously love all that.
We love all that, and we all deal with it in all these different ways. And I don't want to make that into this podcast today, but I think it's great what he's doing.
Yes.
And now to more on the floor stuff. The topic I really want to get into today is the Celtics. And yes, and by the way, it's in 3 parts. One, it's fucking great Boston's out. It's fucking great when they lose like that.
Yeah.
And they sucked in that series. They lost those 4 games, and that was a blowout in Game 5.
And no one saw it coming.
No. So that's number 1. Number 2, he did not take a lot of the heat, because we're going to get to the last thing last with Mr. Kyrie. But all of these, and I don't think he's a bad guy, but Brad Stevens guru. Brad Stevens is the next going to be Red Auerbach. And I'll quote him, I did not coach well. You know what? He's fucking right. He sucked. That was a terrible coaching job by Brad Stevens.
I never thought I would hear conversations about him needing to be fired, but I'm hearing them.
Well, I see that's too extreme. But people at one point last year, and I'm glad someone put a great Twitter post together. Who would you rather have, a player or players in the free agency last year, or Brad Stevens as your coach? That is completely insane. This team has not improved. And yes, maybe you do have someone who's alienating players, but as a coach, you have to play through that. And you did not do that. Brad Stevens had a really bad run this year and did not make adjustments appropriately. So I thought Tatum had a weird year. I think he took a step backwards. Brown didn't develop. These are players that should be getting better as you go along. And it's a big year next year for Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens.
Well,
you better win games. You better get to the NBA Finals. This is the Jim Harbaugh conversation I had with Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about the Celtics next year talking about assets. I don't want to hear talking about, hold on, I want to get this out. I do not want to hear right now about things talking about, yes, I live in the Northeast, so I have to get this out. If I hear one more goddamn fucking time, the Celtics have so many assets. They've had assets for 4 years, and they don't get to the finals or win championships. They have so many assets. They're going to be wheeling and dealing. Shut the fuck up. Start winning big series. And don't get blown out in Game 5 against Milwaukee. I don't want to hear about the Celtics and their assets anymore. Marv Albert, they have assets. Assets? They aren't winning games. So, all this to be said, it's a big, again, Jim Harbaugh, big year. Better beat Ohio State. Celtics, big year. Better get to the NBA Finals. I don't want to hear about next year in this likely? Team. I'm so tired of hearing about assets.
Andy.
Oh, it's just annoying. They're going to trade for Davis from the Pelicans.
No, they're not. Wait, is that really being said? Do you really think David Griffin went down there to convince Anthony that they're going to build around him? I
have never seen a team
delusional if they think Anthony Davis is coming to Boston.
The Celtics get the same goddamn fucking treatment. That they got assets. Danny Ainge is a wheel and dealer. You know what? Start winning big games in big spots.
Well, what about this? What
Sorry.
if, I mean, so I know we're going to talk about Kyrie.
We're now to Kyrie.
What if the problem, and which I think could be the problem, Kyrie needed LeBron to keep. I mean, that Kyrie can only. Kyrie's not a leader. Kyrie is mentally weak. Kyrie mentally gave up and quit. There is no other obvious thing. I mean, like, that is the most obvious thing that happened. We know that that's what happened. Kyrie vanished, right? He's gone. Kyrie talks a lot of shit that doesn't make any fucking sense to the media. He never, I mean, I swear to you, I've never heard somebody say more shit that doesn't make sense than Kyrie Irving.
There are two
He
players.
tries to act like he knows what he's talking about. He tries to act like, you know, I should have taken more shots. And but look, Kyrie, stop. Just say it. I don't give a shit. I don't want to be here, and I was wrong. Boston is not a sports town. Like I thought, I said they were.
That's not true.
I'm kidding.
That's not true.
Kidding.
I was going to say they're a huge sports.
Wait a minute.
That's why Boston's
stop.
fun.
That's my joke. I'm kidding. I don't.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just trying to.
By the way,
off.
I can't stand Boston, but we got to.
Well, no, I know that. I'm saying it. I'm making fun of Kyrie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My point is,
Kyrie's
the problem. If Kyrie's gone, does Brad Stevens have his team back? I think he does. That doesn't translate, though, to a team that is talented enough to get to the finals, and I'll say that, too.
Jared, I'll be honest with you. I think the Celtics took a big sideways backward step. I thought Tatum and Brown in that series.
I think it's because of Kyrie.
Nah,
I think
Jared,
Kyrie was the problem.
Agree. I think. Look, I don't want to take Kyrie off the hook because Kyrie did not play well. And it's captain obvious.
That's not to say Kyrie can't be good somewhere else, but I really think he needs somebody like a LeBron to lead him.
Well, I think there's two guys right now in the NBA who I'm having a hard time putting into value: James Harden and Kyrie Irving. I just have a hard time putting value in these guys. I saw it last night with my own two eyes, both those guys. What happened to Kyrie, we'll get into more. And then James Harden, when Durant went out with an injury, and James Harden had a real chance to take over that game, he couldn't take it over.
Yep.
And in fact, he didn't do much at all.
Yeah.
And you know what? And going to Jared's point, I think that will help. But Jared, here's what really would worry me if I were a Celtic fan. Tatum and Brown didn't improve. I didn't see Al Horford's not going to be there. Marcus Smart, and I'm not saying these are guys who are must-keeps, but there's going to be a huge changeover in your roster. Yeah. No matter what, the Celtics are going to go through a huge changeover. You know, this was kind of their year to make a big step, and they didn't do it.
Nope.
And you can't keep resculpting and saying assets that build new teams, but this is your team. And that's my point. I thought this year, if the Celtics would have lost in Eastern Conference Finals on a game-winning shot, I wouldn't be so hard on this. Mm-hmm. But the way they went out and knowing how things work in sports, I think the Celtics are going to be surprised. It might be even harder to get back to where they are this year.
Well, I think the East could get reshuffled again and still not compete with whoever wins the West.
See.
I mean, that's how that feels right now.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as easy for the Celtics. To Irving, as you already talked about, the bigger question I have from a Cleveland standpoint, up until this morning, I never felt like the Cavs got the better of the Celtics trade at all. I must admit, Jared, I think now you can actually start making the argument if Kyrie Irving leaves. Now, if he stays in Boston, the trade debate's still on, and it's still leaning towards Celtics, in my opinion. But if Kyrie Irving leaves and Sexton is still on the Cavs, you know, I actually think the Cavs might have made out in this trade in the long run.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's good to look back at that because it's a reminder of how quick judgments can be.
Well, that's my point. No one saw it this way. Last night it occurred to me watching this game, like, if he leaves, this trade actually in the long... Now,
even if he stays, Andy...
Well, that's true,
and I don't think fans in Boston, I don't have my ear to the ground, but they don't want him there.
Look, I live in this area of the country. They are ready. I talked to a Celtics fan. They are ready to take him and be like, hey, do you want some Groupons to a vacation?
Yeah.
And then here's some magazine guides to wherever you want to play next. Kyrie Irving going back to Boston. I'm not saying it's impossible, but Jared's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, meaning he's going to have to earn back a lot of things. And by the way, if he came back to Boston and everybody could get their head together, it would be a great story because I think that is something that I could see the Celtics making a big step and going to the NBA Finals.
Kyrie is who he is. It's not happening.
I agree.
Kyrie ain't changing. Kyrie is... No.
By the way, he stunk. He stunk.
He needs someone like LeBron around to take that leadership role, and then he can run around and show off and be carefree, because for some reason he does this thing where it seems that he's trying to emulate and mimic LeBron's attitude when he talks to media sometimes in a very strange way, where he thinks he needs to talk in this, I need to do this, these guys, blah, 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 this is my team. He does those things that, one, it doesn't translate the same way when he's talking. Like, his teammates clearly don't see him that way. It's not that same connection or that same way of running the floor.
Yep.
He just doesn't get it. He just doesn't. He's not a guy that you want to be the face of the team. But if you want a guy who can be clutch, who can make shots, who's got handles like no other, and who, like, the only way you're going to get that is if you take the pressure off of him and tell him, look, dude, you don't need to take the reins. And I don't know that he's going to be able to do that.
Here's
in this. I don't know where he's going to be able to do that.
Here's the one thing I'll go with what you're saying. Kyrie now is 0 for 2 in very good sports cities of connecting with that city. I thought he was going to connect with Cleveland, especially after
he burned that on his own.
But that's my point, and he did. And he left in a really weird way. He's not leaving Boston well either. Those are two pretty good sports cities.
Mm-hmm.
And Cleveland and Boston, I think, are two of the best, especially Cleveland. And he just did not connect after that Game 7 shot like I thought he would. I think he's going to have an interesting offseason. I don't see him going back to Boston. I really don't. I think it's either destination LA. I think it's going to be the Lakers. I think he'll reunite with LeBron somehow. I think that's the only...
Andy, that is the only chance that anything works out, but I've got my opinion on that too. And I know that you've heard your rumors, but jumping to that, I know we don't have it on our rundown. Andy, Ty Lue not signing with the Lakers to coach out there. I know that you've heard otherwise, but to me, without having any other knowledge, my idea on why this didn't work out comes down to, I don't think Jeannie Buss could guarantee to Tyronn Lue that the Lakers aren't going to trade LeBron. I don't, and I think that is what kept him away, because what else is Ty doing?
Well, I'll take this in two parts. If the Lakers trade LeBron, that's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. You cannot do that. Because A, you'll never get fair value, and B, that is so giving in to a rebuild. And by the way, the Lakers, because of all the wheeling and dealing Magic did, they're actually not built to rebuild. So that would be a monumental mistake. Okay, with that said, yeah, I mean, that would be a huge...
It really is possible, Andy.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I don't know if I'd even say it's 50-50. Maybe it's 30-70. Maybe it's 40-60.
I just can't see it.
But it's high enough of a possibility that I'm talking about it.
I don't know.
And it really, I'm sorry, you can't tell me that money is the reason that Ty Lue didn't sign that contract. I don't think that makes sense to me at all.
Well, that's what's being reported, and that's what I'm hearing. I mean,
all right, well, there's only so many jobs in the NBA, Andy. There's only so many head coaching jobs, and I don't know how many others. And why wouldn't he sign to go and hang out with LeBron again?
I don't know.
Why? You know that was the only guy that LeBron. I mean, LeBron. That's the only guy LeBron didn't have fired.
The only thing I'm going to say is
Spoelstra,
I really don't think LeBron's going anywhere. If he were to get traded, that is the biggest mistake the Lakers will have ever made. And that could set the franchise back 5 years. And I really mean that, because they're not built to rebuild. This team is built.
I think that's part of the problem, too, is look what they were doing prior to LeBron.
I know. Well, again, the Lakers have really made trades over the last year to build off free agency this year.
Yeah.
The Lakers have built trades to really build off what bringing LeBron in. You can't now just restart. Because I feel like they're regretting it all, though. Well, I think the Lakers, let's see what happens. Again, I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm not saying you're right. I just don't see it happening, and I think the Lakers will be making a monumental mistake if they were to do that. Because, again, you'll never get appropriate trade value because LeBron, for the first time, his trade value is not low, but it's not going to be as high as you could possibly be off 16 and 17. And Jared, again, they are not built to rebuild. They don't have draft picks. They traded those. They traded Larry Nance's to us and to other teams because they were trying to make room in free agency. So they need to make a push in free agency, and that's what they need to be focusing on. They should be focusing on getting Leonard away from Toronto into LA. They should be focusing on Kyrie Irving, maybe getting him to LA to help and rebuild that with the Lakers. Yeah. Maybe you try to wheel and deal and really get on your knees and grovel for Kevin Durant to come down Interstate 5 and come play for the Lakers. That's what you need to really do this offseason. Or maybe it's Klay Thompson, or maybe some of the other free agents. That's what the Lakers need to do. That said, the Tyronn Lue thing, I do think money played a part of it. I'm not saying it's everything. I do think it played a part of it. Because from multiple reports, it sounds like that he was insulted by the deal.
Well, this stuff's going to play out one way or the other. We'll get our answers. It's going to be strange. I don't know. The Warriors, they wrapping this thing up. This is I can't see it going any other way. I don't care. I mean, Kevin Durant's got a strain. We'll see how that plays out.
Well, by the way, he's got the famous injury that we all know of in Cleveland, a strained calf. And again, like it's not how strained is strained. I don't know, but I watched a lot of that game last night, and that's why the Warriors are the Warriors. They can take a hit like Durant and just keep winning. They have so many players. I think sometimes people really undervalue how good and how deep the Warriors are with Durant on that team. Because without Durant, you say, oh my gosh, it's still the Warriors, but it's a closer series. I mean, you could see the Rockets competing on a level. But anyways, that said. Yeah,
the Warriors won championships without Kevin Durant. We have to acknowledge that.
Which I have to acknowledge that. Only one, but they did win one. So with that being said, I think, the Warriors, unless something drastically changes, because the other thing I've learned, I just mentioned, James Harden has not played well in this series. I know he's had eye trouble, and he's had other things, but Jared, at some point you got to take over some of these games. And he's just not doing it. It's been interesting. And it looks like from what we're watching here, the Sixers will be pushing it to Game 7. I have not heard any buzz at all about the Blazers series and Nuggets, and I will not be watching this game either.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's going to be Nuggets Warriors. I'd say Sixers Bucks. I really think, I don't want to do too much on this. Raptors have a lot of pressure when Game 7 in Toronto, unless something drastically changes here in the last 3 minutes of this game. A lot of pressure in Toronto in Game 7 at home. A lot of pressure. Sixers Warriors would be fun.
Yeah, well, Andy, I can't. I can't.
I'll be here to talk about the podcast. I'll be watching. By the way, quick shoehorn.
I'll box score watch and I'll watch highlights and I'll check in. I'll
watch the games for us. I'll watch the games and give quick analysis. Here's
Look,
the other thing.
I'm still a bitter Cavs fan. Sorry.
That's why we love you. That's why we love Jared Watson. Real quickly, the other thing I was reading here today, not too much, but Adam Silver is really pushing to get more female refs in the NBA. I think that's great. I think it's something that would do actually a lot of good, because I think that's the kind of thing, Jared, where I've seen this year, especially in sports, where every athlete is going after a referee. I think bringing more of a good female mix to a male mix would be good. I'd be interested to see if that would help slow down this referee debacle that happens in all these sports, or every call's being nitpicked. I just think, I'm not saying it's going to help or hurt, I don't know, but I just think it's good. It's good for everything to get more women into these sports, and B, I actually think in a way that's needed. I just think it's needed. I just think these referees are getting picked on way too much in these sports. And I'm not saying
I mean, you can look at it that way. Maybe maybe this will counteract that. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
know.
I think that the assumption that this is all for guys to begin with is I'm glad that stuff's changing. I really am. I genuinely am. I know that there's people out there that love to Like I would honestly ask if you really feel like it's guys. Well, why? Because it's always been. I mean, is that? I mean, what is your real reason that you feel that way? Because
Jared,
me personally, I just don't. I don't feel that way.
Jared, I'm with you. I would like to see more in the NFL. Yeah. I would love to see more in MLB baseball.
Yeah,
I think it would help these sports. I really, really do.
Yeah,
I think it would. I think it would help tremendously. The last thing I want to talk about, there's not a lot to discuss. It's more of a good vibe.
Ohio State football.
Yep.
Not good vibe. That's not the right term. I'm tired. It's good news, and we haven't talked about college football, which is my favorite sport. People don't know. But Justin Fields is going to be the starter as Matthew Baldwin leaves the Buckeyes. He's transferring to TCU. So Fields, that came over from Georgia, boy, he jettisoned quickly up to the starter.
Knew it was going to happen. The moment he walked onto the court, he walked down and had those seats with Urban and with Haskins, and I personally thought it wasn't really that great of a look because what's his face was still there. The kid was supposed to be wasn't Baldwin. This was the other kid. I can't.
Who also transferred out.
Yeah, he transferred out earlier. Look how quickly I forget names, especially because he's been gone. If you're not wearing scarlet and gray, you don't matter. So,
don't worry. Don't worry for your Purdue Notre Dame fans like me. There's other teams out there.
Listen, I've got a newfound love for the Boilermakers just because of we got a couple of them on the Indians. Well, it's not just him. Is it Luplow? Is it Luplow or is it Pilecki? Who's
Pilecki?
Pilecki, yeah. So both of them, and they played together too. So.
That was the year that Purdue went to the NCAA baseball tournament for the first time in a long time. I'm going to get to that other kid's name here in a second, but that is an interesting story. We kind of saw. I agree, Jared. I think the writing's on the wall, Justin Fields, as soon as that happened. And it's interesting with the Bucs, brand new quarterback who coming off of a not inside the program, coming over from Georgia, and then you got the new coach. I think the Buckeyes. It's so early to talk about this, but they are an interesting story. They always are anyways, but boy, Jared.
There's a potential for growing pains here that Buckeyes fans might not like.
I don't know yet.
I'm just saying the potential's there. I don't either. I'm not making an assumption. I'm just saying it's too early to, we can't sit here and say this team's you honestly can't make an evaluation of what's going to happen on the field yet with this team. Kind of like the Browns.
Well, but Fields starting is interesting. It really is. And Coach Day is going to have a lot of pressure to perform early because Fields is going to have a lot of hype going in.
Yeah, certainly if they're this confident that that's the guy.
Well, so just to recap, Jared loves everybody talking about how the Browns are too hyped. I love the fact that the Celtics have assets, but honestly, the Indians treading water. They're doing okay. It's not Memorial Day yet. Remember, the Twins are still up. Kluber was sad. You hate to see it. We all love Kluber. Jared makes a very fair point. I think the Trevor Bauer thing, being an ace, it's his mantle now. I really believe he is the ace of this team. He is the ace, actually. I don't even think it's debatable. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders to do that. We'll see how he handles it. I think he'll do very well, by the way, even though he had his first bad start. J-Ram slowly coming back.
Yep.
Oscar Mercado, where are you? Numbers are really bad. The Browns, we talked about that. I thought it was cool. Again, the Browns are very chic to me. I think it's very, very cool. I'm sorry. I was, kind of with Jared. I didn't feel as much as Jared did, but there was a little bit of backlash that was weird. I already complained enough about Kyrie. I think interesting where Kyrie goes. But again, I think the bigger story from a Cleveland perspective, for the first time that trade, and it has not looked, in the short term, it could be debated the opposite. But in the long term, I think the Cavs might come out on top of this deal with Kyrie because of Sexton. And it's interesting. That was never thought of until I thought about that last night with the loss in Game 5. So, that to be said, it'll be interesting to see what happens to LeBron and Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue not taking the job. It will be interesting to see that. I'm hearing, by the way, real quickly, and everybody can read about it, Jason Kidd sounds like to be the new leader going in to get that job. Jason Kidd and LeBron James would be an interesting relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work well.
Again, I said maybe who Whose fans are better off right now? Lakers fans or Cavs fans?
Well, yeah, and again, like I don't want to poo-poo what Jared's saying because he's not crazy to hear these rumors about LeBron being traded. But again, if LeBron is traded, I don't think he will. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
It is a monumental mistake for the Lakers.
Yep.
It will be a
Andy,
5-year pushback.
How many teams do we see? I mean, we see this on a regular basis when teams make monumental mistakes. And right now, I think the Lakers find themselves in the most vulnerable position that they have found themselves in a very long time as soon as Magic did what he did. And oh, by the way, LeBron on that barbershop show, I think they had the ball was on with them, and they were talking about, I didn't get a heads up from Magic, by the way. Boo-hoo, LeBron. I don't feel bad for you. You didn't give anyone in Cleveland a heads up either. It's all good. You'll live.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing
I say that look, I love LeBron, but let's keep it real. That's all I'm saying.
The only thing I'll say to Jared's point, what's really unique about that was, I mean, I know Magic used to be a player, but from that happening on the executive level is so strange. In professional sports.
But it's strange. But you're talking about a guy who was a player and who loves.
I know.
mean, you can't take the player out the game.
Yeah, I'll say this. That was one of the most bizarre. That is still this date. I have to think about some other things. That's the most bizarre sports moment I've seen this year. That whole Magic Johnson. I'm quitting. That was weird. That was a really, really weird thing to see.
Andy and Jared at gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. At CLE and Beyond, on Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, and our website, andyandjared.com or clevelandandbeyond.net. Also, next week, we've got some pretty major news regarding this podcast and a partnership, and we are extremely excited, ecstatic about the opportunity. We will talk about that and release that information as soon as we decide it's the right thing to do. So
and we come up for air in our jobs. Something that should be also brought up next week, and for people who listen, we're going to do more podcasts going into summer. Yeah. It's been a busy streak for Jared and I. Next week's no different. We will do more going into June and July. It's just been a busy run.
Yeah.
So we are going to do more. It's just been one of those times where I've been busy with my documentary stuff. Jared's busy doing, I think, 13 different jobs. Me, 14.
Oh my god! I've got finals coming up this week. I need to breathe. I'm glad. Yeah, I want everyone to know we haven't been neglecting this show. I promise you. That's not any of this. We're not taking a step back. We're not getting bored of it or anything like that. No.
We are clearly not after our yelling tonight.
No, exactly. We are just absolutely swamped. And to be honest, look, I know that a lot of people would love. To dedicate all their time and efforts into one thing, which maybe one day we'll be able to do that. But until then, I got to keep a roof over my head where I'm at right now. Hey, before we finish too, shout out to the dude who works construction and down in Baltimore and was working on M&T Stadium and posted up a poster of Baker Mayfield on the outside facade of M&T Stadium while he worked on it. Thank you for that. I drive past it every day. I give it the finger as I head to school. That place is disgusting to me, and I appreciate your efforts.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Browns fan, construction guy who was working on M&T Stadium. Thank you.
You made the world a better place. You really did. So all that to be said, if you want to look forward, interesting short road trip for the Tribe in Oakland, in Chicago against the White Sox for 5 games on the road. Then a long homestand that ends on a tough 4-game stuff with the Rays. Then on the road with the Bo Sox, and on the road with the White Sox. So it's a tough stretch. So kind of an Oreo sandwich here. Let's see how the Tribe does. And I think that if you want one other thing to watch, when's Oscar Mercado going to happen? And we'll talk about this in the next podcast. The old lottery ball drawing will be happening on Tuesday the 14th.
Yeah, and oh my God, here we go again with names. Young man Gilbert.
Yes.
his son is going to be the one drawing the Cavs ball, correct?
I want to say Nick. Let me see if I got that right.
I think it is Nick.
Let me see. Let me make sure.
It's driving me nuts. Sorry. I know. We know this. The long goodbye.
Nick
guys.
Gilbert.
We know. Nick Gilbert. Another long goodbye from me.
Yes, another long goodbye. Should we relive Jared's feelings about Beckham comments and my feeling of love for the Celtics and their assets? Or should we close it?
Rewind. Let's close it. I don't feel like yelling anymore. I'm tired.
I apologize for people, too. That's going to be a hard volume switch when Jared and I were yelling.
I've got compression on the audio. We're good.
Okay, thank God. All right. Have a good week, everybody. Again, when we talk next, Tribe, see where they're at in the lottery drawing. We'll be seeing where the Cavs are going to be picking in the lottery. That should advance the Cavs, by the way, to see who they are going to be hiring as their coach. That will excel that finally. So that should be excelling that as well.
He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Talk again soon. Take care.